Hi, my name is Beth Drucker, and along with Kim Stone, I co-lead the Go Green Illinois. This is the 80th education program that we have put together since we began in 2013, and welcome to all of you who have been members for years, and especially welcome to those of you who are new. Every time we do a program, we see new people signing up, so we're delighted to have you. The topic today is electrification and solar opportunities. Kim Stone is going to tell you more about the program, but first I'm going to run very quickly through some announcements that we want to make sure. Of course, only the early birds are going to hear the announcements, but we're gonna run through some quick announcements. Um, if you have questions specific to your group, whether you want to start a group, whether your group is small and growing, if you have any specific questions, Kim and I will stay on when the program finishes for coaching. So don't sign off if you've got some specific questions about your group or your community. Um, Jacqueline Casaza from Glen Ellen has suggested that we figure out a way for us to communicate more effectively in between programming, which we think is a good idea. So that will be put in place in the coming month, maybe a Google group listserv kind of thing. So we're working on that. Um, we're also putting together a survey of members groups that you'll get in the next month. We're going to have a collective spreadsheet of who's doing what so that you could easily, if you wanted to look at leaf blower restrictions, for example, you could go to the list of all the member groups and see the groups that already have restrictions, or maybe talk to the groups that don't have any. There's so many topics that we decided we were gathered all in a spreadsheet. We've got an intern working on that, but it wasn't quite ready for prime time yet. Um, the Illinois Green Alliance is having another program June 18th, the Illinois Energy Efficiency Showcase. That is in person, June 18th. That might be of interest. Go Green Reads. Every group is welcome to send your members to Go Green Reads, which is our collective online book group. May 18th, we're going to be reading Here Comes the Sun with Bill McKibben, speaking of electrification and solar. I'll be the discussion leader. You can find the registration on gogreenwinnetka.org. Skokie has put in very great bird strike mitigation requirements. This is migration season. If your community is just getting going, take a look at what Skokie's done. It's really inspiring. Sustainable yard tours, now is the time. If you have never done a yard tour in your community, find one wild and wonderful yard and make it a one-house tour. You don't have to make it a big deal, but you can show off one of your best yards for people as a start. Also, Wilmette is launching our first ever bike bus. This is a movement to try to get kids on their bikes, biking together to school. It's starting tomorrow and the next 3 Wednesdays. If you're interested in a bike bus in your own community, do a little Googling. Chicago Family Biking Organization helps, and you can contact me. Kim, any other announcements?
June 4th, there's going to be a webinar for schools on energy efficiency and electrification with ComEd and with a speaker from Naperville from a school district that has used ComEd incentives. We are looking for school districts who have folks that might be able to attend. So please contact me for more information, and it will also be posted to the Go Green Illinois website.
Okay, so
Thank you.
Kim, with that, you can introduce our program.
Okay, thanks. So this program is on electrification and solar, as I'm sure most of you know. And electrification is sort of a new-ish topic. There are a lot of reasons why it's a good idea, not only to improve your energy efficiency, but also to move things away from gas and towards electric. So we have several speakers who are going to be working on that, or are going to be talking about this. We're going to start with Aaron Stash from the Electric Home Company, who's going to talk generally and broadly about how to electrify and what things can be electrified. Then Derek Eder, who is a trustee in Oak Park, is going to talk about policies and incentives that can be implemented at the local level to help move others towards electrification and make that easier to do. We have Edith Makra here from the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, She is going to share some information about some of the ComEd incentives that exist for electrification. And then Lucy Mellen from the Village of Wilmette will be giving some examples of what Wilmette has done in terms of incentives for their residents. And then finally, we're going to end with Lisa Albrecht, who's going to talk about amplifying the environmental impacts of electrification by using some solar energy and why solar is a good option even now when the incentives at the federal level are gone. So I'm not going to introduce each speaker as we go along. Hopefully that will give you a sense of the program and kind of what the plan is. And we will start with Aaron.
All right, thanks, Kim. I'm just going to share my screen here. And all right, I
And
think
feel
we're
free
good
to
to
put
go.
questions in the chat as we go along, and I will ask questions at the end.
Kim, are you able to see this screen? Just want to confirm.
Yep, looks
Okay,
good.
perfect. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm Aaron Stash. It's good to be here this afternoon. I am the founder and CEO of the Electric Home Company. I am also a jack of all trades. I'm a member of the Illinois Green Alliance. I am a Rewiring America climate coach. I am a member of the Northbrook Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I'm a certified professional with the Green Home Institute and a proud member of the North Shore Barrington Association of Realtors. I'm also a member of Go Green Northbrook, and I sit on the Northbrook Sustainability Commission. And a mouthful. This is my home where I'm sitting right now, and I'll talk a little bit about my journey. But ultimately, what does it mean to have an all-electric home? Sometimes I get a chuckle of like, well, didn't we add lighting to our houses in the early 1900s? What do you mean an all-electric home? So this is a nice eye chart that ComEd put together. I know some of the other organizations have charts like this or diagrams like this. I won't go through everything specifically, but we're looking at the whole home as a package. The big four and kind of the big things that you can electrify or that use the most emissions in your home are your gas furnace, a gas water heater, a gas dryer, and your cooking. So these represent about 80% of all the emissions that come from our homes. And you can see the percentages in there. Your gas furnace is 55% of the emissions. Your water heater is 19%, and on down the line. Excuse me. My own personal electrification journey, I did not come to my home initially as all electric. We built our home and moved in 2014. And at the time, we were certified LEED Platinum in Northbrook, and we still had a lot of gas in our home. We installed solar panels 5 years later in 2019, which is also when we got our first electric vehicle. In 2020, we added an induction cooktop. We changed out a gas cooktop, and we also added an EV charger. In 2023, we added a second electric vehicle. And then just last year in early 2025, we completed the electrification in our home with a heat pump water heater and a heat pump dryer, and ultimately removed our gas meter entirely in 2025. So it's not necessarily something that you're going to do all at once. It took us the better part of 10, 11 years to electrify, even though we had built our house from the ground up. And I know a lot of folks are, not building new homes, but what can you do to electrify your existing home? But before we go into that, and I know the speakers are going to talk about that, a big question is, well, why would you want to electrify? So I know we're talking to the Go Green Illinois group, and I hope folks have seen this graphic behind the screen there. This is essentially the climate stripes. This is climate change from 1850 through 2024. And blue is colder and red is warmer. So we continue to trend up. And so the main things I'll talk about on why to electrify will be the climate, your health, your safety, your comfort, and the costs. Speaking of climate specifically, thanks to Edith and the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus for this slide, 17% of the greater Chicagoland emissions come from residential energy use. And the third highest on this chart is residential natural gas use. As I mentioned, I live in Northbrook, where we did a climate action plan, and we identified that 74% of Northbrook's emissions come from the energy of our buildings. So this is not just residential energy, but all energy in our buildings. And this is when I like to say, as we're talking with our nonprofit groups and different organizations that we're part of, are we spending 74% of our time talking about energy in buildings? I would challenge all of you to think about the amount of time that we're talking about this and spending in our groups, and perhaps spend more time looking at what we can do in this area. So thinking about the health aspects of electrification. So Americans spend roughly 90% of our lives indoors. We're no longer an agrarian society. And so if I think about these things, if I gave you this glass of water, would you drink that glass of water? If I gave you this orange, would you eat that orange? But what is it that we're breathing every day right now inside our homes, inside our offices? And how can we improve that and improve our health? So gas appliances affect the air quality and they circulate pollutants and raise the risk of asthma and other illnesses. So this is not only a gas stove, it could be an improperly vented gas furnace or gas water heater. Even your gas dryer may have leaks and things like that that are imperceptible to some, but can produce and cause, additional illnesses. From a safety perspective, and I always start with kind of the darkest side first. In Illinois, in the last 5 years, we've had 28 natural gas explosions, and this is from homes, and that resulted in 12 deaths. This photo in the very background is from Northbrook in January of 2019 when a house exploded and started on fire on Mellen Lane. So there's, a risk in our homes of having this flammable material. Now back to some more positive sides, comfort. So when I think about the houses that we live in, whether it's a new home or an older home, an apartment, a condo, whatever it might be, do you have a room that's too hot or too cold? I think most people could say yes. And generally we kind of deal with it, right? We get a fan or we add a blanket or we wear a sweater in that space. And is your room uncomfortable because of the lack of insulation, the lack of air sealing, the oversizing or undersizing of your HVAC equipment? If we're electrifying and we're upgrading our homes, we can make our homes more comfortable. And then cost. In Illinois, cost for electrifying isn't as easy as, say, California or the East Coast, where electrical costs are higher or we're using oil fuel or fuel oil for heating. We have a very robust gas infrastructure in the Midwest, particularly in Illinois here. And generally, we'd pay our power is pretty cheap compared to the rest of the country, both on the electricity and on the gas side. But if we electrify our homes and we add renewables, like Lisa's going to talk about, we can insulate ourselves from these fluctuating energy prices, right? This is kind of the no-duh slide right now, especially with the state of the world and where we are with different energy prices. If you're able to electrify your home and power that through renewables, you can insulate yourself from some of those costs. But I also want to highlight that energy efficiency is not the same as electrification. We may have electric apartments, electric buildings, electric homes today that are running on, any or all of these items here, an electric baseboard heater or an electric on-demand water heater, an electric ducted dryer or an electric stove. All of these things are possible today and have been around. But an electric baseboard heater or an on-demand electric water heater are very expensive to operate. Even an electric ducted dryer is more expensive to operate than newer systems that are out there. And I bring this up because oftentimes we think of the question I get is, well, what about the grid? Can the grid handle it if we electrify our homes, if we do this work? Well, all of these things on the screen are active today in our community. And so if we electrify with heat pump technology, we can actually decrease the burden on the grid that's already there because of these electric resistant systems. Where should you start? So you should start with something that's broken, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But ultimately, as we go up this pyramid, costs start to increase and the complexity of the problems starts to increase. So, the first thing that I like to look at are things like we're doing today, understanding and awareness. I do have my email and phone number on this slide. I know we're kind of speeding through a lot of stuff today, but I am always happy to talk to folks, individual groups or individuals as well, to raise awareness that this is possible and provide that understanding so that we can take those steps. My company, the Electric Home Company, I started in 2024, and I did it for that main reason. How can I be your guide to a healthier home? And so I look at your building envelope and thermal scans. I look at the electrical capacity of buildings, appliance age, what does it take to electrify or decarbonize, and what incentives are out there. I know we've got some folks on from Oak Park and Wilmette and other municipalities that are providing incentives directly to their residents, which is fantastic because we're making up for some missing federal incentives that were canceled. But we also have incentives from the state and from our utilities. And so I help build out that education and awareness. And then, the last couple slides that I'll mention is, buyer beware, or, just want to put out a word of caution for folks. So this is the tale of two electric homes, and this is the electric bill from February of 2026. On the left side of the screen, as I'm looking at it, this is a income qualified home in the North Kenwood neighborhood of Chicago. It was built in 1885 and is roughly 3,200 square feet, including the basement. Um, it received free windows, free insulation, free weatherization, as well as a full home electrification package, including two heat pump HVAC systems with electric backup, a heat pump water heater, an induction stove, and an electric dryer. And then on the other side is my home in Northbrook, built in 2013, also similarly sized. It's a high performance new build with a heat pump HVAC systems. We don't have backup electric heating. We have only mini split systems. We have a heat pump water heater, induction cooking, a heat pump dryer, and two electric cars. And I note that 25% of my bill is charging my cars on a monthly basis. And so just looking at the cost difference here, this older home, over 100 years old, the power bill in February was over $1,000. Whereas my power bill in February was still pretty high, but I don't have a gas bill at all. So $420. Why is that? Well, here's some big things that the 1885 home had installed or missed when the income qualified programs provided this home with a free electrification package. First of all, the homeowner got the ability to choose a glass block window to replace in their basement, where instead of a double pane or triple pane window, actually a couple of the windows in their basement are double pane windows, but most of them are glass block. Glass block windows are essentially single pane window efficiency. They got free insulation and air sealing somewhat. So they're missing insulation around one of the most important parts of their home, their basement rim joists, where the concrete or the foundation meets the wood. They're also missing insulation in their attic. When they had their HVAC systems installed, the installer who put their heat pump systems in installed it with the incorrect balance point. So instead of that balance point where the electric backup heating element kicks in being set at 10 degrees, it was set at 40 degrees. And the heat pump systems that they have in their home are rated to run down to 5 degrees Fahrenheit. And so essentially they were turning on a toaster oven when it was still very mild climate outside. This program allowed them to choose either an electric dryer or a heat pump dryer. An electric dryer is 2 to 3 times more expensive to operate than a heat pump dryer. And last, one of the biggest things is even though this home was weatherized, was insulated, had new windows installed, when they had a new blower door score done, they still only got an 8 ACH 50. They started with 14, so they increased and improved from 14 to 8. But if you were to participate in the ComEd Whole Home Electrification Program, which provides you as a homeowner $5,000 or as the developers $5,000 to build that home or to upgrade that home, their requirement is 2 ACH 50 or less. So again, as we look at these income qualified programs, let's make sure that we're going back and looking at these systems and commissioning them well and doing the homework and the math on the blower door scores and all of these different things so that homeowners who can least afford to pay these prices are not hit with these massive bills from the free programs that they take advantage of. That is me talking really fast in a nutshell. I've got about 80 more slides that I could share in the future, but I'm going to turn it over to other folks and I will be on the line to answer questions afterwards. And then one last plug, I do also have a YouTube channel called The Electric Home Show, where you can actually tour Derek's house, who I think is up next, as well as some other folks that I've interviewed. And Kim, back to you.
Thank you, Erin. There's one question in the chat that I want to ask, actually, maybe two questions. Um, what about people who are at their max electricity capacity? It's difficult and expensive to add capacity. Is this something that's typical? Do you have any suggestions of how
Yeah, I
to?
would say in both homes, my home and that 1885 home were both on 200 amp service to fully electrify. If you have a 100 amp service, it's possible. You just have to go on what they call a watt diet, WATT. And there are some resources out there. I'm happy to connect with folks after because we can go down the rabbit hole pretty quickly.
But
Uh,
Aaron, being fully electric with two electric cars, all you needed was 200 amp service?
Correct.
Okay, because I've heard other people saying that they've been told that that wouldn't be adequate. So,
Now, I don't have, I have one electric vehicle charger, so I'm not charging both cars at the same time.
okay.
And they're also not both charging. So I have one like 50 amp electric vehicle charger. I could plug those electric vehicles into a standard outlet and just trickle charge them and have no problem, which is what I did for the first year of my cars. But yeah, there's some other systems that allow my electric vehicle charger to know when my home is using a lot of power, and so it actually disconnects or stops my EV charger from working at that time.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
yeah, and I can speak to that as well because we have a similar situation. Our home is not fully electric yet, but it is in process, and we do have enough capacity, even though we have 200 amp service as well. Um, what we did was the electrician actually did a load calculation when we added the EV charger. So rather than looking at just the square footage and this is how much electricity you should have per square foot, he said, well, this is what we are actually using per square foot, and the city said you're fine. So that's another way to do it. Okay, so we can talk further about that later, but I'm going to turn it over to Derek.
Okay, thank you. Let me share my screen. All right, see those slides okay?
Yep, looks good.
Great, excellent. Well, yes, good afternoon. I'm Derek Eder. I'm a trustee at the Village of Oak Park. Great to follow Erin because I think you got to say a lot of the things that, so I don't have to. I'm going to be focusing on electrification policies and programs in Oak Park, and specifically the ones we have in place and sort of the path we got to get there. And then talk a little bit about some of the ones that are up and coming. So this is me. I'm a trustee for the Village of Oak Park. I've been on the job less than a year. I was appointed in June of last year. I'm also a member of our local Oak Park Climate Action Network advocacy group, and I run a small consulting company called DataMade, and I'm also a co-founder of a nonprofit civic tech event called Shy Hack Night. So I bring all of that experience to this work that I'm doing now, which is acting as a village trustee, but then with a real focus on climate action. That being said, two disclaimers I want to make. As a trustee, I am representing my views and not necessarily the views of the Village of Oak Park itself. But I will be speaking obviously about things that we've been doing in Oak Park. And then I also wanted to caveat all of the things I'm about to say with the fact that Oak Park is a home rule community. And the more I've learned about policies and taxation and funding mechanisms, I've learned that's a really important distinction. And I know that some folks who are on the call are from communities that are not home rule, which limits your ability to raise funds. So I just want to caveat everything that we've done in Oak Park. We have that home rule status, which does give us the ability to tax and create new ways of generating revenue, which we do use to fund some of these programs. So it's something to keep in mind. It certainly doesn't stop you from doing some of these things, but it is a factor you need to weigh in. I will start because I have a story similar to Aaron's. I have electrified my own home. Did it in 2023, took about 18 months. Our home is about 100 years old. It was built around 1915 or so. We have two heat pump units. We have a ducted system. We have a hot water heater that's heat pump. We have one electric car that we trickle charge, and we have an induction stove. And I think I have a low efficiency electric dryer. We were able to put that one in, and we do have a 220 amp service. And I also was frantically looking up, wait, what is my ACH 50 number? How many air changes are we doing? And our home was drafty before we started this work. It was about an 8 or so on that scale. And we were able to do some insulation that got it down to like 6.5, which for our purposes was enough to again be able to fully electrify. And we shut off our gas service in 2023 as well. So I'm not here to talk about that. You are welcome to read about it on my website, derekeder.com. I have several blog posts documenting that journey. But I say that here because it was part of my journey to become a trustee. After doing this work and joining the Oak Park Climate Action Network, I helped start a program in Oak Park through OPCAN called the Climate Coaches Program. And similar to Aaron, I get a lot of emails from folks who have read my blog and want to electrify their own homes and have all these questions. And so what we did at OPCAN was create a program so that we have about 20 volunteers now that have an expertise in, not all, but like each of them has expertise in some of these different subjects around insulation or rebates, or even we talk about native gardening. We also have recently added some resources around biking in Oak Park as a way to scale up that expertise, because it really is. Once I did it myself, I realized, oh boy, this is a big challenge. And the solution to climate change, a big part of it is we all have to do this, and it is a huge collective action challenge. And so finding ways that we can help spread that information and raise awareness, as Aaron mentioned, is the way to do that. So I helped start and run the Climate Coach program, which has been going for 2 years now. And that kind of led me into eventually getting appointed as a trustee to the Village of Oak Park to continue that work from the public policy side. So I am here to talk about that. So I think a framing that's useful to use to describe this, the way that any kind of policy framework works, is very kind of maybe an oversimplification, but I find it somewhat illustrative and easy to understand, is that when you're talking about policy, you've got carrots, you've got sticks, and you've got measurement. And it is through those three broad mechanisms that you can enact policies. And that is sort of the lens in which I'm going to talk about the different programs that we have in Oak Park and how they kind of all work together towards this goal of increasing home electrification and the transition to a clean economy. I'm going to start with measurement first, because that's actually a really critical step that you can't miss. It is really difficult to understand the scope and scale of the problem, and we do have a lot of tools that help us get the federal and the global look, and there's lots of organizations that are measuring emissions. But when it comes to actual policy locally, you really need to know what's going on in your community. And so one of the things that we did even before I joined the board was in 2022, we passed a climate plan. And this is something I'm sure a lot of communities now have, but it was a critical first step because it establishes the goals that we want to achieve, which in Oak Park is decreasing our greenhouse gas emissions by 60% by the year 2030. And to get to net zero by 2050, and to completely make all of our buildings in the village that are village owned 100% renewable. And we have some other items on here around green infrastructure, and also some equity elements of it as well, about the dollars and who it's going to, and making it making sure it's going to the most vulnerable. And so I'm really locking in on the first two really items on this list, which is how do we change the net emissions in the village. Similar to, I think, Northbrook, our numbers are almost identical. I think Karen, you said it was 74% come from buildings. In Oak Park, it's almost the same. It's 72% of pollution comes from our buildings. This is something that was it's called a greenhouse gas emissions study. It is something that we do every 2 years here in the village. And it is something that is mandated in the climate action plan. So it gives you a baseline, right? It tells us that these are the areas that we really need to focus on. And transportation is a tricky one, and one that I really won't get into in this particular talk. There are lots of options that the local organizations, local municipalities can do, but I'm really going to focus on the building side, on the residential and commercial especially, because that's again the almost three-quarters of the challenge right there. Since we've started the climate action plan, we've been able to do two of these greenhouse gas inventories, and so we're actually starting to measure the delta, the change between the years in which we do these checks. And we are seeing things are starting to decrease. They're not decreasing fast enough, though. And this is something I am constantly reminding my colleagues and really using it as a way to continue to push for doing more. Because you'll see in a moment, we are doing a lot in Oak Park, but the answer is even with all that, it is not enough. We need to continue to do more. And by having this mechanism, and I hopefully we can start to measure things in much more granularity than even this, you can start to see, are the policies that we have in place, are they actually having the impact that we want? Are we reducing our emissions enough? Are we doing better than we would have without any intervention whatsoever? I like to use sort of numbers to get a handle on the scale of things, and I like to count households. The American Community Survey and US Census give us some really helpful information just to get a count. And this is something that's always very helpful for me to think about when I'm trying to think about, are we moving the needle here? According to the census, we have about 23,000 households. So that's not buildings. That counts multifamily buildings, single family homes. Each of those, each individual household could be one of those different categories. And the census also does, the American Community Survey does actually track what the fuel source is, the heating fuel source is for every household that it measures. So we actually have a pretty good estimate from that ACS data that tells us just how many homes have already been electrified. And so in this case in Oak Park, when I looked this up, I was actually surprised to learn that about 16.5% of our households are already electrified. And that a lot of that is stuff that predates really this move to electrify. A lot of these buildings that were built in like the 70s and 80s have probably the less efficient but still electric heating sources for them. And then plus homes like mine, there's more of them all the time that are starting to electrify. So almost 4,000 have been electrified, but then that leaves there's almost 20,000 households that still need to be fully electrified. And so that's a number that I think is a useful one to keep an eye on as we kind of continue to roll out these policies. So now I'm going to talk about some of those policies, and I'm going to start with carrots. So sticks and carrots is the metaphor here. Carrots are the rewards, right? And this is getting money or discounts to do the right thing, and in this case, electrify. One of the things that has been in place for a couple of years now is our Climate Ready Energy Grants. You can see a poster here that we advertise on the Village website showing the different kinds of things you can use it for. You can add insulation, fix your drafty windows, you can upgrade your electrical panel, swap your furnace for a heat pump, install hot water heaters that are electric, upgrade your lighting, and then even install solar panels. It is income qualified, so if you are 80% or below the area median income, AMI is what it's called, you can get up to $20,000 grant, so free money to do these things. And then if you are between the 80 and 120% area median income, so kind of in the middle, you can get $7,500 to do these same things as well. So this is a program that we can continue to fund every year and use it to give people that capital that they need to start making some of these investments in their home, the ones that I've done and that Aaron talked about as well. We also, on the business side, have business grants. This is actually something that just got put in place a couple of months ago. It is a way to incentivize storefronts to electrify and do other climate-friendly policies. You can get up to, as a business owner, you can get up to a 50% reimbursement in sustainable business practices, up to a maximum of $6,000. So that's like lighting, replacing appliances, implementing zero waste programs, installing EV chargers, or even putting solar panels in. So it's a way to address the business side of things as well. We also just recently created a program for rebates for appliances. You'll notice in this program, the grants, appliances are not covered. And it's just an easier thing to do from a policy perspective to just make it a rebate as opposed to a grant, because these are things that are sort of installed in people's homes and they can, people can sometimes just take them with them if they move out. And that I've found is sometimes a concern when it comes to implementing a policy around giving money away. We oftentimes want that investment to stay in the village. And so by sort of setting it up as a rebate, that makes it so that's less of a concern. So in this case, you can get $300 back off the sticker price for buying a heat pump clothes dryer. You can get $400 back for switching to an induction cooktop. And then you can get up to $500 back for a saddle window heat pump, which if you haven't heard of these before, there's a few companies that sell them now. They're essentially like window unit air conditioners, except it's a heat pump. And there's a company, Gradient is one of the companies that makes these. They cost about, I want to say around $3,000. And you install this window unit and it can create a heating and a cooling while not blocking a substantial portion of your window. And so it really is a great solution for folks who are renting or folks who are in condos where sort of getting access to and needing a lot of space for mechanical changes can be a challenge. So in this way, we are helping folks take just dollars off the sticker price, just again, make that move to electrify the financially prudent one, right? The other thing we've done recently is we have eliminated or reduced permitting fees. So for all the things that we want folks to be doing to their homes, like switching to heat pumps, switching to installing insulation, getting solar panels or batteries installed, upgrading your electric panel. Like any municipality, there's a permit fee that is associated with that, and that permit fee is typically for us, and I'm sure it's the same for a lot of other places, derived as just a way of sort of making the village sort of break even in terms of the cost of actually administering those permits. But for these particular items in a building permit, we are essentially giving you a credit back, so that is essentially zero. I know that in some cases that dollar amount can vary based on some of the circumstances of the permit in particular, but sort of for the standard permits, you would get a grant that credit back, and it would essentially be $0 to do that. So again, it's just all about eliminating or reducing the burden and the barriers to do the right thing. And permits are a cost, right? In the village of Oak Park, it could be a couple $100 to get a permit to do some of these things, and so it just again removes that barrier that people may encounter. This is the thing that I'm actually the most excited about, and it just launched 2 months ago. It is the Oak Park Energy Navigators, or OPEN. It's something we hired Elevate to do, which is a nonprofit here. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it before. And it is in many ways an extension and an amplification of the Climate Coach program that I mentioned at the top of my talk. It is a program where you can get really hands-on expertise and help from trained professionals to walk you through your home electrification process. They will give you a free energy audit of your home. They will talk to you and come up with a plan. They'll help you budget things. They will get you connected to experts to help you get started on actually making that change. And so it's still very early days on this program, but it is something that is apparently quite popular already. We've already had a couple of hundred folks sign up to join this program in Oak Park. And it actually is pairing really well with the Climate Coach program, whereas these folks are there to really be the hands-on guides to help you electrify your home. But the Climate Coach program can exist in parallel because sometimes you just want to talk to a neighbor and say, really, was it better? What was it like when, was that heat pump loud? Or, what was it like when you changed this, that, or the other thing? And so it ends up being a really nice sort of volunteer run program, like the Climate Coaches assisting this public program as well, and they help support each other. And so when folks fill out the Climate Coach request form, we're also making sure they're aware of this program as well. So we're sort of tying it all together. So it's really exciting, and I'm very excited to see how this starts to help move the needle on getting some more folks sort of past the challenges. I think again, Aaron, your diagram you showed of that pyramid, right? Of things kind of continue to get a little bit more complicated as you work your way up the pyramid, and it really does help to have someone to help guide you through that and navigate all the challenges that can come from that. So that's the open program. Now I'm going to move into sticks. Rules you must follow, right? These are policies that it's the other way in which government can really compel certain kinds of behaviors. And this is again getting fined or penalized for doing the wrong thing. In this case, investing in fossil fuels or increasing the amount of pollution that in the infrastructure that we're investing in. One of the ones that we've had on the books for a while now, it's been over 2 years now, is our electrification ordinance. It's passed on January 1st of 2024, and all new construction in the village must be electric. So that is something that's been in place since then, and it was actually we were the first municipality in the Midwest to have this ordinance in place. It's great. I think it's a really wonderful tool, but it alone doesn't really do everything we need because there's in the village of Oak Park, especially we're already a pretty well built up and established community. There's not a ton of new construction. Most of the work is happening on the renovation side. So this is good. It's sort of the metaphor of if you're in a ditch, stop digging. And this is essentially what that does. It says, okay, if it's a new building, you're not gonna have any gas.
So Derek, I don't want to interrupt
Yeah.
because this is such good information. But can you try and wrap up?
Yes, I will be quick. We have a gas-powered leaf blower ban. Does what it says. We also have benchmarking. Buildings over 10,000 square feet must report their annual energy and water consumption, and that's something that helps us again have better measurements about everything that is going on in these buildings. And then a few coming soon, things coming soon. That building benchmarking is a sort of precursor to something called a building performance standard, which is once you have an understanding about the emissions different buildings have, especially the largest ones, you can start putting in place requirements to reduce those emissions over time. And so that is something that is we're working on over the next several months, and are planning to put something like that in place within the next year or so. And then the last big thing that's coming soon is I mentioned the grant program, but we also have a loan program that we're working on. And this is something anybody would be able to apply for. It is a 5-year, zero interest loan that you can use to essentially do all the things you can with the grants. You can upgrade your home and electrify, again, giving folks access to the capital to be able to make those changes in their homes. But it's a loan program. So over time, that money is paid back into a fund, and we can actually redeploy those funds as a village. So as a policy tool, it's really exciting because it's something that's a rolling ball of money you can kind of keep redeploying over time, which is great. So that's it. I have a couple resources. I can share these slides with folks afterwards if you want to click into some of these, but that's it. And sorry for running a minute or two over. I apologize.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all this information. One quick question for you, Derek, and I don't see any additional questions for Aaron. The all electric building ordinance, has there been pushback from developers? I know that was in litigation at some point. I don't know if that's been resolved.
Yes, there is a lawsuit. I cannot comment on the lawsuit. It is not resolved yet. It hasn't, I haven't heard too much about pushback from developers at this time. There's just not a ton of, again, new construction. So we haven't heard a ton. I haven't heard a ton about it. So no.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yep.
It's great to hear so much good is happening in the area. Edith.
Good afternoon.
And then
Okay.
Lucy, you're next.
Okay. Is screen view okay?
Yep, perfect.
Okay, so I'm Edith Makra. I'm Environment Director for the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus and filling in for Tori Wilbright, who is our energy specialist today, who is busy doing outreach on the program. And I wanted to just point out my slide says ComEd, but the next slide I'll get to is the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus. And if you don't know us, we are a not-for-profit regional council of governments serving all of the municipalities represented on this call today, 275 municipalities in 7 counties. And at our level, we do an awful lot on leadership for sustainability and climate action. And that's how we're involved in whole home electric. So we have climate action plan that we did in 2021 was the first time really floated at the regional level that there should be electrification of homes and buildings. We have an awful lot on energy efficiency. The climate action plan for the Chicago metropolitan statistical area was just completed by the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, or CMAP, just last month, and they have a strong focus on electrification. The Mayor's Caucus focuses on transportation electrification. This program specifically is on home and building electrification. And a little bit about how the Mayor's Caucus is involved in promoting a ComEd program. We started doing energy efficiency outreach for targeted low-income communities in partnership with one of it's called an implementation contractor working for the utilities on home energy savings. So we were promoting energy efficiency because the local governments we work for have an extraordinarily good reach and connection to all homeowners and renters, and particularly they can be really good allies in terms of targeting these programs for income qualified customers. And we were invited to be a part of the whole home electric program. So that's the transition and the reason for me talking about a ComEd program. And in short, this offers this program called ComEd Whole Home Electric Program. It is an income eligible program. So as Aaron mentioned, there are benefits, and same thing with Derek in Oak Park, is that there's a preference for income qualified, meaning that this is 80% of the area median income, about 67,000 for a one-person household, a little bit more than that for two. But with those income qualifications and certain qualifications around the building, the home, that there's old and inefficient heating and cooling systems, and that there's a demonstrated bill savings. Those income qualified customers can be eligible, and then if you are eligible, you get a lot of benefits from replacing your your interior systems, heating, cooling, and appliances. There's no cost for eligible single-family properties, or the customers. There is also a focus on income-eligible multifamily buildings, which would be any more than 3 units per, as well as public housing. And it's a little harder to for the municipalities to reach the property owners, but the benefits can be very extraordinary throughout, particularly some of the older buildings, in reducing energy burden for the renters. And the multifamily property owners may have a copay. And then there's an additional focus on helping customers with electric resistance heat, which can be very expensive and inefficient, replace their systems and move to heat pump technology. The types of systems that the ComEd program is offering is heat pumps, air source heat pumps, water heaters, electric water heaters, induction stoves, and heat pump dryers. Again, this is all based on eligibility. Those customers that are eligible and haven't previously participated in energy efficiency weatherization and panel upgrades may also be eligible. And the program is, this is the 2nd year for the program. It is growing this year, in some ways surpassing the energy efficiency work that they have been doing, but this will shift again next year. But you can enroll directly at this link here, or you can contact Tori Wilbright, who again works for the Mayor's Caucus and providing connection to communities that want to help their low-income residents. With that, I think I'm under time. So
Excellent, you are. Thank you so much. Good information, and hopefully we can share this on the website as well at some point. Lucy, oh wait, well there is
There's a question for Edith.
Yeah, let's just ask this question for Edith. Does the market rate whole home electrification incentive still exist?
There are discounts, is what I'm seeing, for market rate, meaning non-income eligible, but they are offering discounts for appliances one at a time. I wouldn't say one at a time, but it's not the whole, the top to bottom electrification that you would get with the whole home electric program.
Thanks. And I made use of that program when we did some electrification and some efficiency work at our house. Um, dig into the ComEd website. There's a whole page on incentives, and you've got to really scroll through there, and there's a lot on there. So you can find a lot of different possibilities. So thank you, Edith. Lucy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lucy Mellen. I'm the Sustainability Coordinator with the Village of Wilmette. And today I'll be talking about the Village's Green Homes Incentive Program. We just launched this program in January of this year after approving it last year. So it's still in its infancy. We're still working through it kind of as a pilot program and then hoping to look into it next year to see if there's any changes with the second program year. So the program began because of the village's greenhouse gas inventory, which was for the year 2022, but completed in 2024. And what this showed was that, like Derek had mentioned, the majority of our emissions came from buildings. So residential energy was responsible for 45% of community-wide emissions, and commercial energy was responsible for 22% of community-wide emissions, with total community-wide emissions coming in at 260,000 metric tons of CO2 equivalencies. And you can see that broken down with residential at about 117 and commercial at 54,000. And then to the right there, you can see that blue slice of the pie is residential and green is commercial. So from this, we knew that energy emissions were something that we wanted to tackle. Obviously, this does include natural gas as well as electricity, but from talking with sort of our external partners and the individuals that we were working with through our greenhouse gas inventory, we knew that natural gas and energy efficiency was where we wanted. So in 2025, we started dreaming up the Green Homes Incentive Program, and the goal of this was to incentivize sustainable home installations that reduce the community's reliance on and usage of natural gas and also increase overall energy efficiency. So we broke this down into three categories, Group A, B, and C. Group A provides incentives either 50% or 70% of project cost. The 70% is for income eligible residents. That's what the IE denotes in all of these different categories, and then that's up to $700 or $1,000 for the rebate. And this is for electric stoves, heat pump dryers, electric panel upgrades, level 2 EV chargers. Then moving into Group B, similar parameters with the 50% or 70% of project cost, up to $2,000 or $3,000. And this includes heat pumps, heat pump hot water heaters, and weatherization. Weatherization including things like air sealing, insulation, and window replacements. And then Group C includes solar panels and geothermal with up to $3,000 or $4,000 for income eligible residents. And the income eligibility guidelines, we determined that we would pursue 120% of area median income guidelines. And you can see sort of broken down what that looks like below there. And residents can verify their income eligibility by providing, most recent tax year documents, Social Security or TANF benefit award letters, or award letter for participation in SNAP, LIHEAP, or housing. And so during their application, they would just provide this documentation to prove income eligibility. The program creation, like I mentioned, it was created in 2025 with a 2026 start time. The funding source is our annual civic contribution from our municipal aggregation program. So the Village of Wilmette participates in municipal aggregation, which is where the village arranges for the provision of electricity on behalf of residents. We have a rate match program, so residents pay exactly the same as they would if they're with ComEd. It's just an alternative energy supplier for that. And as a benefit, the village receives an annual civic contribution of $50,000, and that goes directly into the budget for the Green Homes Incentive Program. So essentially, that civic contribution just is the GHIP program budget. And this program is modeled after our existing stormwater incentive program. So the goal of the stormwater incentives program, which still exists now, is to encourage Wilmette property owners to implement improvements that sustainably manage stormwater runoff on private property. And so pretty similarly, the budget for this year is $40,000. It's also broken up into Group A or B with 50% of project costs up to either $3,500 or $5,000. And so we have had this program available for 117 days. So this is my 117-day progress update. We have reserved or expended a little over $15,000, so $15,700, and we still have $34,300 remaining for this program year. So residents are still able to submit applications to us through the end of the year for projects that they're working on. The project types so far are broken down there. Weatherization has seemingly been the most popular that we've seen, and also just in emails that we've received of people who maybe haven't yet applied for the program, but are getting their projects set up to apply, have also been interested in weatherization. So all of the breakdown of this is accessible at wilmette.gov/GHIP. It breaks down sort of how residents can apply. We have all of our documents listed on that webpage as well. So if anyone has any questions, happy to answer them now, or feel free to reach out to me at a later date to talk.
Thank you, Lucy. I see that there are a lot of links in the chat, so if anybody has questions, I think a lot of them will be answered with those links. I don't see any questions. Does anyone have a question that they haven't put in there yet?
Hey, Kim, before we
Yeah.
move on to Lisa Albrecht and solar, because that's such an important topic, I just wanted to, that was a lot of statistics about these incentive programs, and most of our communities probably don't have anything like them. And so if you are part of a Go Green group in a community, one of the things that you can do is contact a trustee or contact your village manager and say, hey, are we doing anything to move electrification ahead in our community? I think Wilmette and Oak Park are doing a lot. And you can imagine the impact if more of our communities did that. So for a Go Green group, what can you do? Find out what's happening in your community and see if you can't get them perhaps to talk peer to peer. Have one of your trustees call Derek, or have your village manager call Lucy to say, how did you do that? How's that working? And one of the other problems, I think, is to get people to actually apply, because it can be complicated. So Lucy, do you ever have people who need your help to actually apply?
Just to apply for the program in general, do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've had to walk people through just the application process, or sort of people will call us wondering if their project is eligible, and we'll just get more information about it to let them know if they are eligible or not. There's some parameters where it can't be applied retroactively, and it has to be applied for before the final inspection has occurred. So sometimes we just have to assist with that.
I'm also wondering, how do you reach out to the people that might be most in need of these home energy efficiency programs? They may be older, they may not be as connected electronically. Especially if they're older, I mean, how do we find those people?
Yeah, so it's a lot of outreach. It will always be just trying to identify as many people as possible and make them aware. Our village does have a print communicator that goes to every household in our community, and we've included information in that, and we'll continue to include information. So hopefully it's getting to every household, but we just keep trying and keep putting it out in new ways to reach people.
Okay. Great. And Lisa, in your program, I'm sure you'll also talk about community solar, which is something that everybody should be doing if they can't put panels on rooftops.
Yeah, I touched on it a little bit. Not a ton, but I do talk about it. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
And to answer a couple of questions that were in the chat, the incentive for community solar is that it's generally 20% cost reduction from the standard ComEd rate. So I don't believe there are other incentives available for community solar besides that pretty significant cost benefit. And then Aaron asked where the money from MC squared was going prior to this program, Lucy. I know Highland Park puts the money into a sustainability fund, which funds all sorts of different sustainability programs, but where was it going in Wilmette before?
Yeah, we were not receiving it. So the first year that we received the funds is the first year that we launched the Green Homes Incentive Program. Before that, we had a different model that didn't result in a civic contribution. So when we switched to the civic contribution model, we established the incentive program at the same time.
Great, thank you. Lisa, why should we do solar now?
Great. You are seeing the slides, right?
Yes.
All right, perfect. All right, so we're electrifying our homes. There's a lot of confusion and misinformation, and I think a lot of a lot of people feel defeated because of the changes in the tax codes, but there still is huge value in going solar currently. So my name is Lisa Albrecht. I'm on the board of directors with the Illinois Solar Energy Association as well. Sorry, Illinois Solar and Storage Association. I keep forgetting to add the storage. So we didn't change the acronym, but we did add a storage to our S's. And then there's also the Illinois Solar Education Association. So we've been around since 1975, although our C6 has been around since about 2020 when we started to really ramp up some of our advocacy work and our presence in Springfield. So we have a lot of business members as well as homeowners and residential members that use our resources and benefit from our website, which is Illinois Solar, that's all spelled out, .org. One of the things I just wanted to tap on this for 1 second because it's crazy when we realize just how far we have come. I know people get a little bit discouraged because we look at what's the percent of solar coming from the state. The problem is that we've been changing the denominator. So I want to focus on the numerator, which is what we've built. And since we passed the Future Energy Jobs Act and the Clean Energy Jobs Act, and now the Clean Reliable Grid Act in Illinois, we really are one of the nation's leading policies when it comes to solar and storage. We have built 565 megawatts of solar capacity in the state, which includes 96,300 small rooftop solar systems, which is mostly residential and small businesses. So the industry is tired. We've done a lot since 2019, and it's been a huge lift. We also have done we've got 228 community solar projects that total 790 megawatts of installed capacity. So Illinois has really moved the needle in terms of what has been built since passage of launch of FEJA, which really was 2019. Why go solar? Those reasons have not changed. This is the same information that I have shared in the past. Solar is it's a clean energy resource. It saves people their money. It increases the value of their home. It reduces emissions. It creates jobs. Those 93,000 residential systems are where the majority of the jobs have been created in Illinois is doing those small systems. As opposed to the big one. So this has not changed. The loss of the tax credit, although it feels scary and big, it really should not. It's going to definitely slow down the industry. I don't want to diminish that reality. But once we have acknowledged that this is our new world, I think, and people just kind of move on and realize the economics still make a ton of sense, I think we'll continue to see solar ramping up again. 2026 is going to be a tough year. No way that we can paint that any differently, but this is not going to kill solar at all. There's always lots of myths about solar, so it's too expensive. I can't put it on my house. It makes my house harder to sell. Those myths, we have proven over the years that those myths are really just that. They're just myths. And we still have fantastic incentives. So in 2026, the state does have the renewable energy credits. That is the clean attribute of your solar. So for every 1,000 kilowatt hours of solar production, you produce one renewable energy credit. I just put down the prices. I apologize for not putting them down for Ameren territory, but here in the ComEd territory, those prices did go up a little bit. So they're $80.77 for systems under 10K and $70. And then that's a sliding scale depending on system size. That incentive goes down the bigger your system is because the project economics are so much different. This year for the state operates on a June 1st to May 31st calendar year. For the 2026-2027 calendar year, the state has added a $20 adder for projects that do not take the tax credit and are under 25 kilowatts. So that is an effort to acknowledge the loss of that tax credit and to help buffer folks from feeling that pain. So that is really fantastic because it means that your REC now for an under 10 kilowatt system is $100 per REC. Those are 15-year contracts. New this year as well is that you get 50% paid up in year one, and then you get quarterly payments for the next 6 years. So the cash flow is not quite as quick, but certainly the economics are adding thousands of dollars to the price, to the incentives of your system, which should help offset some of those losses from the tax credit. There are utility incentives. Obviously, you get a net metering credit on your bill. It currently is only under the net metering section, it's only under the supply section of your bill, so it's displacing the cost of electricity, but properly sizing your system, your biggest value is in power that you're making on your roof, and not buying from the utility at all. So the goal is not to send power back to the grid, but to use it. ComEd also offers a $300 per kilowatt hour installed capacity for the solar. And now we have a new incentive for batteries as well that is based on the kilowatt hour capacity, and that is also at $300 for systems under 25 kilowatts. So those are cash payments. ComEd's a little slow at the moment for cutting those checks, but you should get a check within about 3 months of your system having been energized. So those are some great incentives. And then we also have future things that will be coming down the road, such as something called virtual power plants, which we're still waiting for the tariffs to be released on that so that we can better understand the monetary system for that. The way that people purchase their system still, it has not changed. Right now, we are seeing an uptick in the number of systems that are third-party owned, which means that the solar company owns the solar and not necessarily the building owner. And those are either through PPAs or through leased systems. And typically those are 20-year contracts on average, although those terms have been shifting and different companies are starting to offer different payment structures to help make things a little bit simpler. Otherwise, you can always, pay cash for your system and purchase it outright, either through, your own savings plan, your own bank, or there have been, some solar loan programs that are out there. Those solar loans can be structured so that you do kind of an 80-20 percent payment and use your renewable energy credit check to prepay some of those costs to get your monthly loan payment down, typically, which is lower than your electric bill. Community solar continues to exist, continues to be a fantastic option for either people who maybe don't have great irradiance at their house, they have too many trees, people who perhaps don't own their buildings, or are in a multifamily building, such as a condo or an apartment building. It's a great way, as Kim mentioned, to save. I'm seeing savings between 15 and 20%, depending on the subscription. So this is a way that you can sign up to offset your bill. IllinoisShines.com has a website to help you find some of those community solar projects, and IllinoisSolar.org does as well. There continues to be great programs out there for low-income projects that would include municipalities and municipal buildings. I'm not a huge expert in this arena, but these programs are still fantastic and continuing to assist particularly low-income communities to continue to go solar. What is new this year is stronger and higher adoption of batteries. We are seeing that is happening more and more. Again, we do not have the tax credit for residential systems, although tax credits do exist for commercial projects, both for solar as well as adding batteries. And the great thing about a battery is it's adding, you're able to power your home even when the grid goes down. With solar only, you can't do that. It also allows you to manage when you're exporting and using your power so that you are as much off grid during peak hours. So you're really controlling not just when those solar panels are producing power, but when you are consuming it, and making sure that you are reducing your electric use during the peak times of the day, which is fantastic. It also helps to improve resilience and protect you from increasing utility rates. Here's just a quick little example. The yellow is a standard production for how solar, so we're going to be making the most power, around noon. But if your home isn't using that power, that doesn't necessarily help you. So by taking a battery, you can actually shift that power to afternoons which is when our usage is high, but also when our rates are high. So it really allows homeowners to have control over how they're using their clean energy resources and when they're using them. And again, I mentioned there's a 300 per kilowatt hour rebate that comes from ComEd. So based on how much storage that you have, you're able to take some additional savings. So just like I've talked in the back, always the first place to start is to understand, whether the home is a good resource for solar. Typically, it's going to take about 3 to 4 months to get something installed. We're currently seeing a little bit slowdown in that because engineering companies a lot of companies are trying to figure out what their foreign content is for tax credits and things like that. But typically, on average, you should be able to go from contract to install in somewhere between 3 to 4 months. Illinois Solar has a number of resources. There's illinoissolar.org. Find a professional if you're looking for a solar installer around the area. And then there's some public education resources on the ICO website as well. So just to sum up, solar makes sense and sense. There's energy savings. You're making power on your roof. Why not turn your roof into an income generating source? It helps you maintain the fixed cost of power. So you as a micro utility are making power typically for about half of what ComEd charges you. So you're saving on day one. The payback and ROI, it's adding loss of the tax credits added about 2 years to your payback period. Big deal. Like we're still well ahead of where we were, say 5 years ago. So the numbers still make a ton of sense. And then you get control over how you're using your power, and you get the peace of mind of being able to sleep well at night and keep your home protected. And that's it.
Okay.
Hopefully you've on time.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it. So we've got a couple questions. And Derek put up a website so you can see where solar is installed in Illinois, which is super cool. Seema has asked, are school districts good candidates for community solar? I want to say that school districts are a better candidate for actual solar because they've got big roofs and there are some incentives available for schools. But Lisa, do you have an answer?
Yeah, and maybe I saw Dave Wilms is on, so maybe he can
Yeah.
reply in that comment. But yes, we are seeing. So if I would say first, the schools should be using the power themselves, but a lot of schools do have extra land that they're not currently using, and they may be able to also either install some community solar in those areas as well. But really, the biggest bulk of the benefit that I am seeing for schools is self generation and using the power. And we also do have some carve outs in some new legislation in Springfield regarding solar for schools and trying to continue to encourage to grow that market. Although we've done a lot, there still is so much more to do.
And Seema, maybe you want to get your school district to attend the Climate Reality Project webinar for school districts on June 4th. Okay.
Yeah, how climate reality we find out just by Googling climate reality, or did you put a link in the chat?
I'm going to put it on the Go Green Illinois website. It's nowhere currently.
Seema, I think you meant though, could a school district sign up for a community solar project somewhere in the state?
Yeah, I approached our school district a couple of years ago about trying to put solar, and they said we don't have any space in our school to do that, even on the roof. So I was just wondering, like, would a community solar option be good for them?
I don't know if they're able to sign up for community solar unless they do it. I don't know if Edith is still on, but perhaps through the program that municipalities are able to sign up for, because the concept of community solar is it's available for a lot of small customers. So a school district would be a larger customer, and that might not work. But I know that Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus had worked to identify a way for municipalities to be involved in community solar. So Edith, would that apply to schools?
And two things for schools. One is that they pay for their electricity fully. Municipalities have difficulty in making a rooftop solar work because they have something called unbilled electricity, in which they can't realize a return on investment for solar. It's very complicated, and I can get into it if you want. But schools do. Schools pay for their full electricity, and so one of the things that we found when we were doing the community solar program, and ours, I'll put the link in the chat, but it's called Community Solar Clearinghouse Solutions Project. And what the solar developers really liked about working with local governments is that there's a consistency and sort of a long-term customer base. They don't move like a residential customer would. And so for a school or a large user, they have a load that's more consistent. I'm not sure about schools and how that would work if they're not using a lot of energy in the summertime. That may be one thing just to think about. Municipalities have a little bit more consistency in their load. So I'm not entirely sure of that, and I don't know of schools right now that are involved in community solar. But it seems to me like, from what I know, I'm not seeing a barrier.
Boy, we
But
should know the answer to that. I don't know it either. And most of our schools do have very active summer school programs.
mhm.
So a lot of them are up and running and using a lot of energy. I'd also like to say that our park districts are just as ready for solar as our schools. And I would like the Illinois Parks and Recreation Association to make that easy for park districts. It took years for Wilmette to get 1,000+ panel system on our park district, partially because it's complicated. And what we need is our statewide school and park district associations to make that easier for their schools and park districts. Kim, do we
Okay.
have other questions?
We do not have other questions.
Okay, so there's lots and lots of information that you can see, lots of links. Thank you for all that. I've got a couple of different things I'm always looking about what could our community groups do. We should be finding out if our high schools have vocational programs. We should be finding out whether or not in their vocational program they're looking at electric and especially solar training, because those are the jobs of the future. This electrification and solar, there's gonna be a lot of great jobs. I loved, Edith, you're mentioning, or Lisa, that the payback with all these incentives gone, which people were worried was going to kill the solar industry, it means the payback is 2 years longer, which is better than it was 5 years ago. So all of our Go Green groups can carry that message back to our communities that now is really the time to go solar. Now is the time to buy EV cars. As you listen to people talk about the price of gas, it's a great time to buy an EV car, especially a used EV car, because so many owners are going to better, bigger models, more efficient models, but there's a good market for used EV cars. And people who are concerned about the unrest in the Middle East. It really underscores that we have to get off fossil fuels, and everything that we're doing in our communities can contribute to that. So those are some.
I'm sorry, Aaron's got his hand up.
Yeah.
Thanks. I wanted to mention one more thing about electrification from a cost savings perspective. ComEd, specifically in the ComEd territory, has an all-electric heating rate. So if you change to a heat pump system with backup or no backup electricity and you don't have gas heating at all, you can get a special rate from ComEd that is on your distribution side. It doesn't affect supply, it doesn't affect your net metering, it doesn't affect hourly pricing. It is rather cumbersome to get from ComEd. Derek and I can both attest to this. It's one of the best kept secrets in ComEd territory that this rate exists. But if you have all electric heating today, you have a heat pump, you should call ComEd and ask for this rate. And I'll put some more information in the chat because that'll save you from 6 cents a kilowatt to roughly 3 cents a kilowatt on the distribution side. So for me, with an all-electric home, it saves me hundreds of dollars a year, especially in the wintertime.
Another thing, I don't think I heard a lot about real-time pricing. If you change to real-time pricing, which is a ComEd program, and you don't pay attention, you can end up with a higher electric bill. If you are paying attention, you can end up charging your cars either for no cost or literally you get a credit. I don't quite know how that works or why, but very regularly we are charging our 2 electric vehicles at a time when we are getting a credit for doing so. So real-time pricing, if you're a bit of an energy geek, it really can save you a lot of money, and it absolutely helps to minimize the fluctuations that are challenging our grid as far as power accessibility. You know what? It is 2:20 and this program has been great. It is being recorded. It will be posted by tomorrow on the Go Green Illinois YouTube website. But we have a couple other people who wanted to mention a few things during our community sharing. So I think we need to thank all of our speakers. Really appreciate the time that you spent with us. And we've got people from 28 different communities who are going to take that information back and try to make a difference back in their own towns. So thank you very, very much. Speakers, you're welcome to stay on or you can sign off while we go to a few minutes of community sharing.
Thanks, everyone.
So, any other questions for speakers? Okay, thanks. Chris Murphy was going to spend like a minute. She is in Aurora, Illinois, and she wants to spend a minute talking about the U.S. Green Chamber of Commerce, the first one in the state of Illinois. Chris, can you sign in?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So, recently I founded a Chicagoland Green Chamber of Commerce. We are a chapter of the U.S. Green Chamber of Commerce. So we're going to have some programs with them and just want to kind of share what we're doing. We're here to help grow greener business, help businesses become more sustainable, help them switch, save electricity, water, rethink their trash, get composting service, divert food scraps, all the things that we've always all been talking about. But I want to and work with existing chambers to help their members as well. But we're also beyond just business to business. We want to help support public agencies, so including school districts, municipalities, because we know that they need all these services as well. They may have food service, they have food waste, they need energy rebates, that kind of thing as well. So I'm creating resource guides for those kinds of things. We also have individual memberships, so if people want to join us and help support us, or maybe they are on the PTA and they need some of those resources as well. Green restaurants. And so we're also part of growing the green workforce here is to share job postings. So we're going to have that on our website. We're also partnered with Innovation DuPage. They have a clean energy business incubator program. So we want to help get the word out on that. And also the CEJA workforce, which is clean energy training for disadvantaged folks. So we really want to cover all aspects here and connect you with service providers, better products. I know myself, where can you find a contractor that won't talk you out of a heat pump? Where can you find that compostable foodware, single use that you want to use for your event? All those different kinds of things that we're always talking about, but there's been barriers to actually making them happen. So we want to be here to support that. And I put the link to our website in the chat. We're just getting up and running for our membership year to start officially July 1st, but you can go ahead and sign up now. I'm working on the website as we speak. So thank you. And reach out with any questions.
Great. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I also just put into the chat. So the next, Katie Narwhal was supposed to be on. She is reactivating Go Green Illinois Schools. It's a really wonderful group that she would like more active members. You can, she's creating a form that you can get from her. I put her name in the chat. Not only would she like you to be a member, but she could use some more help running that program. She does it all by herself. So Go Green Illinois Schools, if you're actively working in your school district or you'd like to, make sure you become part of that network. When you find out what other schools are doing, it's really inspiring to see what you might be able to do in your own school district. So with that, I'm going to start. I don't normally do this. I'm going to start with a couple of things. Go Green and Wilmette so now we're community sharing. Make sure you put up a little hand if you want to say a few things. Go Green Wilmette just turned 20. We had a gratefulness gathering to celebrate and thank all the partners that have helped us over the last 20 years. We had 230 people show up. The way we could do that is we reached out to 8 different businesses that we've worked with and asked them to sponsor that event. So we got 8 sponsors plus Go Green Wilmette chipped in. It was a really great event. Some of you were there. It was really great to have our Go Green friends there. Go Green Wilmette has realized that it's important and easy for us to go to where the people are. For the first time ever, we went to our Touch a Truck event. You may have that in your community. We had one EV Rivian truck, and I talked to more people about my Rivian truck than I talked to at my own EV car show. So that's just a good idea. We just had a plant sale. We raised more than $3,000 selling beautiful true natives for $6 a piece, which is cheaper than anyone can buy them anywhere else. And we raised $3,000. If your Go Green group would like to have a fundraiser that you're gonna, it's dual purpose, getting more plants in your community and raising money, that's a good, easy way to do it. We've got a manual you could follow, and we've got a lot of other stuff going on. But with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kim Stone.
Thanks. Jenny has lost her internet, so she asked me to give the update for Go Green Highland Park. Last weekend, we had a compost giveaway. There were 212 cars that took 20 yards of compost, and also over 3 tons of paper shredded at the event. We had an EV show at the end of April that went very well. I think we had maybe a few under 30 cars, different models. And a lot of people attended that. That was in conjunction with our Arbor Day Festival. But we will also be doing a small EV car show either August 22nd or 23rd with the Vintage Car Show in Highland Park. So that should reach a different audience like the Touch a Truck in Wilmette reached. I think that's all I've got from Go Green Highland Park. And I'll just go ahead and call on Deb.
Deb is from Go Green Deerfield.
Yep. Okay. Hang on a second. Hi. Go Green Deerfield is, we had 34 participants at our Chicago River Day event this last Saturday. Our work with Elementary School District 109 continues, and this past week we saw exterior plans for one of the new school buildings, the first plans that have come out. And that includes things like vertical geothermal HVAC, yes, a green roof educational space, bioswales, native plantings, that kind of thing. We're eager to see the school's interior plans as well as plans for the other 5 schools, which are still forthcoming. We have green drinks events coming up on May 20th. Lisa Musgrave with Cook County Forest Preserve. She's a Cook County Forest Preserve steward. And a local nature photographer. She's going to share her remarkable nature photographs of her work there. On the 17th of June, Paris Perek, our Lake County board rep, will speak about Lake County's cutting-edge environmental and climate policies and actions. July is TBD, but August is Dan Sandoz, a Lake County Forest Preserve ecologist. He's the one that curated the Dunn Museum pollinator exhibit. If you haven't seen it, it's amazing. And he's a great speaker and we'll speak about pollinators, especially bees. We're doing a booth at 2 farmers market days this summer. We're doing a sustainable yard tour in July or August, date still need to be determined. And we're partnering with the Park District on a community event in the fall that we think will include a buckthorn bonfire of buckthorn culled from Park District spaces. They're so excited about this. But don't quote me on that since those plans are still in development. Done.
Great. Seema. Thank you, Deb.
Hi. So I'm from Go Green, Vernon Hills in Lincolnshire. And last week we also have a compost give back event. We had about 400 people attend the event in Lincolnshire, about the same in Vernon Hills. A few weeks ago, we were in Springfield with I think there were about 500 people there for Lobby Day. And we were talking to legislators about banning polystyrene foam foodway containers, about the Power Act, which is putting guardrails around data centers for the energy and water usage, and also Wetlands Protection Act to protect our wetlands now that we're losing federal protections. We're also on Earth Day, we presented the plastics problem to a group of seniors at the Vernon Hills Village Hall. And that was really interesting. It was very nice to see a lot of the seniors interested in the topic and engaging in conversation. We gave free produce bags to all of them, cotton produce bags. And just to plug in, we'll be doing another plastics presentation to the League of Women Voters, Deerfield and Lincolnshire, end of this month. That's it. Thank you. Oh, I have one last thing, and that's a request. We're working on a proposal to move our school district from single-use foodware plates and cutleries to reusable stainless steel, and we're looking for funding options. We've reached out to Illinois EPA, but if anybody knows of community foundations or other places that can help give funding for dishwasher and reusable inventory, we'd really appreciate some suggestions.
Thank you. Aaron, looks like your hand's up.
Yeah, I'll speak quickly for Go Green Northbrook. The Northbrook Climate Action Day is Saturday, May 30th from 10 a.m. to 1 behind Village Hall in downtown Northbrook. I know Go Green will be there, the Village Park District, a number of folks, and the Electric Home Company.
Great, thank you.
I don't think that's posted to the Go Green Illinois website yet. So, Aaron, if you or someone else want to post that, that would be great. There's a post and event link on the homepage.
I know that there are many, many groups that are doing all kinds of things, but no one else has their hand up. Put your hand up if you want to speak. Wanted to mention this is migration season for birds, so look at the Dark Sky International Association. There's lots of information about how we can turn lights out to prevent bird collisions. Now is the time to start talking to your town about hiring a sustainability professional if you don't have one. It is a game changer. Think part-time, think sharing it with another community, but hiring professionals make a huge difference. I just discovered that our park district has used plastic mesh to establish new grass during construction zones. That plastic mesh is now loose and sticking out over the grass, which means when it's mowed, it is getting chopped into 1,000 pieces.
I don't know if that's better or worse than the plastic mesh that the city of Highland Park has used to restore areas that birds are getting caught in.
Well, yes, it is such a problem. So our park district, who's now realizing that in their RFP, they didn't say don't use plastic mesh when you establish the grass in these new areas.
Well, it is in the RFP for the city of Highland Park. So just because it's in the RFP doesn't mean they actually follow it. It's got to be,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a little cute idea. We're having lots of beach cleanups and bird walks and stuff. These are teeny little binoculars for the under 5 set. You make them from toilet paper holders, and it costs absolutely nothing. It's really fun for interns and kids to create because it's very hard for kids to use binoculars. These are terrific and a really fun addition to your camp programs or community where you have a lot of kids because they're very fun. My 2-year-old granddaughter wouldn't put them down. Any other comments or else we'll conclude? We have the leaders meeting, which is no program. The leaders meeting will be the 9th of June. The next all program will be the 14th of July. Kim and I have come up with 80 different topics. We love it when people give us an idea for another good topic. So please contact us about what you think we should have our next program on. And Deb, your hand is still up. Did you want to say more? No. Okay. Well, with that, Kim and I are going to stay on. So we're not going to end the meeting, but we're officially adjourned. If